on what I like in a role and what I'm good at, and try to find a good balance of those in roles. And I started my career on IBM's graduate scheme, and I was not doing anything remotely close to marketing at the time. And I found myself asking questions about what was important to the customer and wanting to get closer and closer there. And I just forced my career into a path that I felt like I had the skills to deliver, and with the content that I really enjoyed learning about. Yeah. So the leading moment probably came more from I've always been fairly ambitious as it goes. I'm a middle child, and I've had a strong personal desire to stand out from my siblings as a consequence. So I'm fairly motivated by that. It's good to be self-aware about what you're motivated about and where you are in your siblings as well. I think probably the big point in my career was when I was at 3 Mobile, and I'd been doing lots of comms marketing roles, and my boss at the time took a massive risk on me, pushed me out of her comms team and made me take a commercial role in marketing, head of trading, which was basically setting all of the pricing for mobile phones in the UK and responsible for our acquisition market share. I'd never had a job like it in my life, but they believed in me. They gave me a chance, and I'd loved it and thrived and felt like people had my back, and they gave me permission to really lead in a way that felt genuine. So, when you're briefing 2,000 members of retail staff what's priorities, you suddenly have to step up, and I loved it. I enjoyed it. I felt like I could be myself. I felt like I had the right support around me, which is really important as well. That was probably my career pivot moment, and then from that point on I was in leadership roles and doing more and more commercial roles. I'm not sure it's different being a female leader to being a male leader, but I personally find the more authentic you are, the better. My team responds really well to me being an actual human being rather than just some abstract person. Honesty, trust, compassion, all those, just, being a good human, basically. I think sometimes you have to make tough decisions, and you have to work out and anticipate the consequences of those decisions on individuals in your team, and make sure that they're on the journey with you rather than it feels like it's stuff that's happening to them. I think that's a real skill that you have to nurture and develop. If you do that, I think you can create an amazing culture in your team, and they're the things that I valued as when people have managed and led me, and they're the things that I try and emulate with my team. I've always found the idea of formal networking really contrived and not very authentic, and I don't think many people who network are the people who are actually going to lead, but I do think that you shouldn't be afraid to ask for help and advice, and use the friends and colleagues around you who have experience. And actually, one of the key things about being a leader is knowing that you don't have all the answers yourself and knowing where to get help. So why would you expect to know everything about everything? Like, I think it's really important to be open and vulnerable and be clear on what your strengths are and understand where you need to get more help. So I would use the people around me in the company and outside of the company, depending on what the problem was I was solving, in order to try and help in those examples. So that all feels very authentic to me. If I was going to a networking event, I would be cringing and hating every minute of it. It's not who I am. So I think that's just part of being yourself. I think the first thing is to take a risk on someone that you think has high potential. That might mean you have to give someone a push. Often, the people who are most aggressively pursuing the roles aren't always the people who are going to be best for the company in order to do that role. I think you have to understand where the skills are and nurture them, and also give people permission to fail, and be honest about have a good conversation about what your strengths and weaknesses are, and the strengths and weaknesses of the people going into the roles, and know where you're going to break, know what the mistakes are going to be before you even go ahead with it, and talk about them and understand them and say where you're going to need more support. So I think it's like ruthless honesty, and I think probably the third thing I would say is don't write off flexibility. Some of the best people that I've worked with, women with highest potential, have needed more flexible working arrangements around childcare, some around other life commitments. That has come with ruthless efficiency to get the job done and complete focus. And just because the working hours aren't traditional working hours doesn't mean that that person isn't an amazing contributor to a team. When I came back on maternity leave, I was promoted and I was working 4 days a week. You don't normally. I was lucky to have a boss who had a baby and understood the flexibility that I needed, but it didn't hold me back. And I'm very keen to return if I see those opportunities. If I see someone in a similar situation, the stage of your life shouldn't affect whether you're good or capable at your job. It's huge. It's a huge thing for women to have to adjust to. Trust in your team, trust that your team know what they're doing, and trust that they can't go that far wrong and you can get them out of trouble if something goes bad. Authenticity, so being true to who you are, and probably finally bravery. So sometimes you have to make tough decisions, sometimes you have to make unpopular decisions. How you make those decisions and how you bring people along requires a level of bravery and commitment, which might make you feel unpopular when you have a team that trusts you, but when you have trust and you explain what you're doing, why you're doing it, and make sure people are on board, I think you can make those tough decisions. So the person who took the risk on me at 3 was a lady called Margaret Burke, and she's I think she's retired now. I saw her a couple of months ago, but she was inspirational to me. She was a working mum. She's one of the smartest people I know, one of the most capable people I know, hugely creative, hugely commercial, and hugely human, and she had a massive impact on my whole career.